Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar today. You are in the right place to learn about free effective tools to people power your organization. So glad you could join us today. We have a great agenda lined up with a lot of amazing information to make your work more efficient and effective. And we have some great folks calling in from all over the United States and North America and the world actually. Folks from Word of Life Lutheran Church in Woodland, Texas, Girl Scouts in Western Washington, Harbor History Museum in Washington, someone from Argentina, the Organización Cero de la Recha. See, I don't know if I said that right, but really wonderful you could all join us. Also have with me on the phone Karen Bentuveras. Yeah, thank you so much, from VolunteerSpot. And but before we get into introductions, I want to just quickly review what we're going to be talking about today. We have a number of free online web services that will make your life and your work easier, and we've divided them into a couple different buckets. So first we'll start with cultivating engaging supporters, social media and the like, and then we'll talk about how to activate your supporters with tools like VolunteerSpot and Change.org. And we have some great tools for managing your documents and data and supporter information. And we'll wrap up with some tools for running meetings and events. And if we have time, a quick overview of some online fundraising tools. We'll have plenty of time for questions and answers, and you can ask those questions in the chat window on the left-hand side of your screen, where a lot of you have already introduced yourselves, so thank you for doing that. Please ask your questions throughout the webinar. We want to know what you need to know so that we can help you make sure you have the right information to get your job done for your organization. This webinar will also be recorded. We'll send out a video of the webinar after the webinar is done later this week. So hold tight if you'd like to review the slides and share that with your network. So again, it's my honor to share the stage today with Karen Bentuveras from VolunteerSpot, their founder and CEO. Hello, Karen. Thank you for being here today.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It's exciting. And I'm thrilled to see some folks from Austin in on the session today. That's where we're headquartered.
Woohoo! I love Austin. It's a great city. Been there many times and can't wait to go back actually this October, so I'll see you there. My name is Lawrence Grodeska. I'm the Director of Nonprofit Community at Change.org. It's my job to help organizations know how to use our free and our paid services to connect with passionate supporters to be more effective in their work. I'll start out with just a little overview of Change.org and how we help organizations like yours, and then I'll turn it over to Karen to tell us about VolunteerSpot and get started with the webinar. But Change.org is the world's largest petition platform. We have over 40 million users in every country in the world at this point, and we empower people everywhere to create the change they want to see. We do that by having our engineers build best-in-class webinar tools so that individuals can create petitions to see the change that they want. However, we also empower organizations to connect with passionate supporters that they need to be effective in their missions and to make the change that they want. So it works a little like this. Someone in the center of this slide, someone like this fellow named Zach Walls creates a petition. Hundreds of thousands of folks sign that petition, and we know what our users are interested in. We know what causes they care about and where they live, and we're able to connect those users through an intelligent targeting algorithm with organizations like yours that need help finding new supporters to cultivate into donors and advocates and volunteers. So that's the service that we can offer you. I'll tell you a bit more about our online petition tool that you can use for free later on in the presentation, but just know that Change.org is where you can turn to find the right people you need to people power your movement. So I'm going to turn it over to Karen to tell us a little bit about VolunteerSpot.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. So VolunteerSpot is a free and easy sign-up and scheduling tool that makes it easy for anyone, anywhere to coordinate volunteers and supporters. And so what's exciting about VolunteerSpot is it was based on my personal frustration with reply-all email, endless reply-all email chains over requests to help at my daughter's school, at sports teams, at faith groups and scouts. And then Katrina hit, and Austin was an evacuation center. And over again, I kept hearing people say they wanted to volunteer and nobody called them back, or they showed up to volunteer and weren't needed. Therefore, people made the conclusion that that group or nonprofit didn't need their help, which means they didn't need their people power or their dollars eventually, and all of those conclusions were wrong. So at VolunteerSpot, we wanted to solve one pain point in the volunteer experience, and that was making it easy to schedule, sign up, and remind volunteers. And we've done that with a series of apps and iPad apps and a free website. And we knew that we had to make it so easy that if you could shop online, you could use VolunteerSpot, and you didn't need board permission to use us. So VolunteerSpot is used nationally and internationally by local groups such as, I see lots of booster teams and PTAs and PTOs joining today. We're used at schools. We're used at small nonprofits. In a small nonprofit, we might be the centralized volunteer scheduling group, like at meals ministry programs and handicap riding programs and Dress for Success programs. And then for large nonprofits like the Red Cross, we power community teams that work outside of the CRM, where you have a volunteer or a committee chair responsible for organizing other volunteers. And we have a free service that anybody can use. We have upgraded services for power users, and then we have partnerships and co-branding for very large organizations like state PTAs and regional and national organizations. So I'll talk more about how VolunteerSpot works a little later today. What I would like to do, though, is let's talk about your organizations. You're clearly here today to learn about people powering your organization. So as a volunteer leader, and many of you, or as a nonprofit leader or community activist, many of you are volunteers in your roles, although some of you, I'm looking in this list, are also paid volunteers, are also paid coordinators. But what I'd like to know is what frustrates you in your role? What takes too much time? What are the hassles? What gets in the way of you doing your meaningful and important work? So if you could just take a moment and chat that into the screen, I would love to hear a little bit about where you see the hiccups, the problems, the frustrations, the things that keep you up at night. If you could just go ahead and put those right into the chat window, please.
Yeah, and this will help us tailor the information we present during the webinar. Really helpful for us to know what information you want and what tools you think would make your life easier. So we're seeing some thoughts on fundraising and volunteer management, assigning volunteers to various projects, managing communications around those projects, which sounds like VolunteerSpot is perfect for. Lack of volunteers. A lot of finding people, getting new volunteers, training volunteers.
There's no staff, getting bogged down because I don't have enough help. Getting
this is a great
out.
endorsement. VolunteerSpot completely changed my job. It has been an excellent tool. Shout out for you, Karen.
For you.
Last minute scheduling, recruiting, volunteer burnout. That's an interesting one.
Volunteer burnout. Okay, so this is a wonderful, wonderful list, and I think what we're going to be able to do is address and give you guys some actionable tools for many of these problems that are coming in. And there's more and more coming in. I know as folks working in the cause field, you've got a lot going on. So let's make your life easier. Let me start very briefly and give a shout to Groundwire's engagement pyramid. This is the ladder of engagement. Many of you have probably seen this before. If you think about supporters, everybody starts out sort of observing what might be going on with your organization or the cause you care about, and then they can move up the ladder to following, endorsing, contributing, owning, and finally becoming leaders. And it's our goal as nonprofit and school and volunteer leaders and community activists to help get people to move up this ladder. We need to identify who's observing us, and then how can we capture them and encourage them and move them up so they become active members of our community, sustaining members of our community, and long-term leaders in our community that help us keep our cause and fulfill our mission. And so to do that, we're very lucky to be living today where technology is so prevalent. I did capture some very quick stats. You guys probably have seen smartphones everywhere. You're probably living the smartphone world. But at the same time, just be aware that smartphone ownership, 56% of adults now own smartphones in the U.S. and 65% of moms. I see many of you have kid-based or school-based programs you're working with. Tablets are out, sales of tablets are outpacing smartphones. Now 34% of adults have a tablet. And then social media usage among online adults. 67% of adults are using Facebook and 20% are on LinkedIn, and then quite hefty numbers are on Twitter and Pinterest and even Instagram. So making sure that we're using social media effectively and using technology effectively is how we're going to be able to engage and connect with our supporters and move them up that ladder of engagement. So I'm going to start our first section by talking about cultivating and engaging supporters. And for this, let's talk about, we're going to focus on social media and how do we use social media to build engagement. So in social media, unlike our one-way communication like newsletters and even our website and often blogs, people don't take time to comment, it's like having a conversation. We're listening, we're sharing, we're connecting, and we're inspiring our supporters actively. And if we do a good job with that, what happens is when it's time for us, we're building trust along the way. We're driving ownership in our community. We're creating our community and our identity as part of our supporters' identity. So when we have a call to action, whether we're asking people to donate or to volunteer or to sign a petition, they're more likely to ask because we already have a relationship with them and they've already built some ownership in our community. So let's take a real quick poll. If you can please, on this screen, just tell us what social media does your organization use right now. You can click right there on the screen. I love watching the numbers come in.
Yeah, and if you,
Facebook's winning, followed by Twitter and LinkedIn. Some others are popping up. For those of you that are using others, if it's Tumblr or things, if you could put it into the chat just so we know what you're using. YouTube. How did we miss YouTube? Yes. WordPress, Tumblr, Patch. Great. Just for time's sake, I'm going to cut it off here and show you guys the results. And I'm sure if we had YouTube up there, had I been thinking, it would be there. And Google Plus is now becoming more and more important. Depending on your group, if you are rallying supporters who are in their teens and early 20s, Google Plus is much more important to you than if you're rallying people who are if you're activating supporters who are older than 30. But that doesn't mean it won't change quickly. So that's the thing about social media is we need to be very aware and very active of what our supporters are using in their daily lives so we can intersect and have that conversation and build trust with them. So let's take a look at Facebook and Twitter. These are just some samples that I pulled quickly from the internet. You can see people are doing everything from posting pictures to posting calls to action to sharing data and information, to giving great thanks to folks and thanking them for their good work with the organization. And it's really fun if you could just follow some different hashtags on Twitter or search Facebook and see what other nonprofits and other schools are doing in your community and doing nationally to learn from them. So what do you post on Facebook and Twitter? It all depends. You need to think about who is my audience and what do they care about. We work quite a bit with PTA communities, so legislative updates are very important. I know many of you in this list are coming from Pride communities. Obviously, that's very important, particularly right now. For many of those cases that you're using change.org, you're trying to change legislation, whether it's local or whether it's state or national. So those kind of updates about what's going on, when people can vote, who they need to contact are super important. All of your events, your fundraisers, your cleanup days, your membership drives, really important to post all that information both on Facebook and Twitter. Any of the calls to action we have, I need you to donate, to vote, to get trained, take a survey, to sign a petition. Make sure though, if you just send a call to action or if you're only always sending calls to action, people are going to get numb to your message. So again, it's important that we're building this community and we're building trust, so when we have those calls to action, people pay attention. Lots and lots of appreciation and more appreciation to our volunteers and our sponsors and our partners. Great place to do polls and surveys and invitations for people to comment and post. Results of our campaigns. If you did have volunteers come in, if you're a food bank, thank the group that came in publicly and let them know how many pounds of food they were able to process that day. Or if you're doing a big coat drive for kids, through all your Facebook and Twitter, post the pictures and thank people and let them know how many kids they served that day by coming in and helping you. Also let them know if you have ongoing goals how you're doing. Lots of thanks to our partners and newsletters and educational content affecting your community. So here's an example. This was Second Harvest Japan put out a call for helpers on Twitter. And what was great about this is they said, hey, we need help. Anybody that can come down to food bank tomorrow, and we're packaging up meals to go. And so what was great is it was specific. It got amplified. They had 31 retweets in one day to 47,000 people. That's awesome. However, those retweets were far away from Japan. They were in Chicago and they were in Los Angeles. And that's not as effective. So when you're using Twitter, be very specific. If you have something localized, use a location hashtag. So put a hashtag, which is that little pound sign, and then put the name of your local community there. And then the event was 3 days out, and it landed on a landing page, and there was no sign-up button. So people had to remember to come back. So just make sure that whenever you're activating people to come in, you have a way to get them immediately signed up on a tool like VolunteerSpot, or you have them signed up to enter your database, or even have a donation button right there. So if this event isn't right for them, they clearly care about your cause, get them enrolled into your newsletter, get them enrolled. They've made an inkling that they're interested in your organization, so capture their data, capture their email, and so you can continue to have a conversation with them. What does the hashtag do? The hashtag helps people who are searching for things in your community find them. So whenever I post things locally as VSpot Mom, that's my personal persona, we use the hashtag ATX for Austin. And then people who are paying attention to things in Austin can find it. When we're posting as VolunteerSpot and we're talking about a nonprofit webinar or seminar, we might use hashtag NPTech, nonprofit tech, or hashtag NPO, nonprofit. It just helps people find you. When you are sharing events, this is Girls on the Run, we love Girls on the Run, make sure you use multiple channels. So you're going to have your website, you're going to be doing shouts on Facebook, you're going to be putting posts on Twitter, and all of these are going to come together. What's great about this example, they had an actionable sign-up link. They could have added a location or a theme. You could do a hashtag like Girl Power or hashtag running to find people who are interested in running that could come and support your event. And also let people know the dates as you're adding that information. So just think about all the channels and being specific. And then as you're having events, think about how am I going to use social media when I plan them. This is a great example from Kaboom, which did a citywide hopscotch game a couple years ago. And what was awesome is they thought ahead of time, we're going to use Twitter, we're going to use Flickr and Facebook, and we're going to use our blog. And ahead of time, they thought about what are the messages, where are they going to go, who's going to send them, and they recruited local bloggers and local followers of their community to be people to retweet messages and post their own pictures and use the hashtag for the event so they could create buzz within the community before, during, and after the event. So just think of your social media while you're planning your different events. For all of those of you that are involved in school stuff, and there's many of you here today, think about all of your back-to-school recruiting you're going to do. So you need to start engaging your parents now, getting them to like you on Facebook, participate on Pinterest and on Twitter, and start following you so you can then engage them when it's time to do your membership drives and your calls for volunteers. So what ways you can do it is by sharing fun stuff with them. Here's some fun things to do in summer in our communities. Here's infographics about back-to-school shopping. Just fun things that's interesting for your community. Which brings us to Pinterest. Pinterest is a visual pin board. So the same way that you used to perhaps sit in a doctor's office and read a magazine and find a recipe you might like, or find a really cool vacation idea that you like and you might rip out the page, with Pinterest we don't actually rip out the page, we pin the page when we find things on the internet that we like, and we create boards based on different activities, or different themes, if you will. So these are just some examples from different nonprofits. So be a part of something big. That's a big nonprofit, Water for Life. Here's Adopt a Dog, which is great. They've got all their puppies that are available from this local SPCA. Arts Education, after-school snack ideas. This is a great idea. This is a great example of a kids-based nonprofit sharing content that their community finds important, even though that's not what the nonprofit does. So think about Pinterest. Pinterest is a female-focused website. I think something like 70 to 80% of their users are women. So if your cause community reaches out to women, then you want to start using Pinterest. And so think about, you not only want to raise things of interest for your cause and your supporters, you want to pin ideas that they care about outside of your cause or your school. So for example, if I'm a PTA, I'm going to definitely pin school spirit wear ideas, and I'm going to pin homework resources and educational websites. But then I'm also going to pin stuff about how do I get my membership card, and where are my registration forms and my vaccination forms. So you mix it up, things I need to do my business, and then things that my volunteers and supporters are going to find interesting. Highlight your projects and your events. Include your advocacy and fundraising links. And then recognize your people. I love this one. People that shine. In this nonprofit listed all their supporters that they think are awesome. And then remember, it's social. So follow the other people in your school. Follow other schools. Follow other nonprofits in your community. Follow nonprofits in other communities that do similar work that you do. Learn from them, repin, and share all of their different resources. It's an interactive community. And then finally, this is not social media, but I do want to talk about email services because our email marketing is critical. Email gets opened. Email is still the primary fundamental way for most nonprofits to get their donations versus social media. Email is still really, really critical. And I just want to give a shout out to Constant Contact and MailChimp. Both are very simple to learn and get started. MailChimp actually has a free service where you can send up to 12,000 emails per month for free, and there's a fee after that. Constant Contact does not have a free service, but their basic service is not, is very affordable for most groups. So I do want to give a shout to both of these because they're very simple to get started. You can upload your email list. They'll keep your list managed and frequent, and then you can send out e-newsletters to your group and calls and invitations to events and other things. All right. Let me just pause and just say, as you have questions about these, if you could put them into the queue, into the chat window, and we'll answer them just a little bit later. I am going to turn this over to Lawrence now to talk about activating supporters.
Great. Thanks, Karen. And I think the last slide about email is a great segue here, because if you look back at the ladder of engagement, we really want to be deepening our relationships with our supporters over time. So a great first step is getting them to follow you on a social media profile. Getting their email is an important next step because, as Karen said, and we certainly see this at change.org, email is a really effective channel for getting people to take action. And that's really what you want to be thinking about, is how do you turn a follower into an action taker? And so we're going to talk a little bit about VolunteerSpot and change.org as a way to activate supporters, to get them to take action on your behalf, to start carrying your message, to be ambassadors and advocates for the work that you're doing. And as I mentioned, change.org is the world's largest petition platform. We empower individuals and organizations to use our free petition tool to make specific change in the world. And petitions are a great mechanism for doing that as part of an online campaign, because they do a couple of things very effectively. And I'm going to talk about a quick example here and then kind of review some of the features of change.org that might be of benefit to your organization. And the example that we're looking at is a petition that was started by a group called the Frank Lloyd Wright Building Conservancy, and they're a pretty traditional advocacy organization. Their mission is to preserve the buildings of the famed architect Frank Lloyd Wright. So they had often worked behind the scenes with local city councils, with developers, and they hadn't really done much online campaigning. But with the house in question here in Phoenix, Arizona, they saw an opportunity to get a lot of their supporters from around the United States and around the world to weigh in on the proposed demolition of this very cherished architectural design of this house by Frank Lloyd Wright, actually a house designed for Frank Lloyd Wright's son and daughter-in-law, David and Gladys. So they realized that they had an opportunity to engage supporters to let the City of Phoenix Council know that there was more than just this organization that wanted to preserve this house, that there were thousands of folks behind this organization and behind the cause that they were trying to champion. So they decided to start a petition on change.org. It was a pretty successful petition. They initially emailed it to their list and shared it with their social networks. And the great thing about an online petition is that it's very social. Someone can sign and then share it with their networks, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or through their email networks. Our tool makes it very easy to do that. And that's compared to petitions in the past, that's a really great benefit of online petitions, taking that one signature and turning it into 10 signatures through the network effect that social media allows us today on the web. So you can see here in the upper right-hand corner, they got about 27,000 signatures, but it was kind of an interesting process to get there. They had a couple thousand signatures through their original share, and then the media started to pick up the story, and they got a great media hit in the New York Times. So this became not only an online campaign for them to save a house, but it also became a brand awareness moment, a way to let other folks know about their organization and the work that organization is doing. And this media coverage, with a direct link to the petition in the body of the New York Times article, led to more signatures on the petition, eventually resulting in about 27,000 signatures, and ultimately the Phoenix City Council recognizing that they needed to do something to step in to grant historical preservation status to this home that clearly tens of thousands of people cared about deeply enough to sign a petition with the Frank Lloyd Wright Building Conservancy. So just a quick example of how an organization that hadn't really tried online petitions saw a lot of success gathering supporters from a wide variety of interests and countries and aggregating that all in one place to demonstrate just how many people cared about making this change. Ultimately, it was effective and successful for this organization. And I think that points to some of the benefits of petitions. First and foremost, they're a great way to meet new supporters. And some of you sort of mentioned that in the feedback you gave us about the things that you need to be doing better or tools you're looking for to help with finding new volunteers or meet new supporters. When someone signs an online petition, they're basically raising their hand to say, I care about the work you're doing and I care about your organization. And on change.org, you can do a couple things that I'll tell you about in a minute to communicate with and actually grow your list based on those supporters that are signing your petition. So online petitions, great way to expand your supporter base and meet new folks that care about your cause. Also, as we saw in that example, a great way to get media coverage, whether it's online or in print. We do see a lot of journalists looking to our site as a way to learn about causes that people care about. Reading comments on an online petition can be a great source of quotes for journalists. We've seen journalists just take quotes directly from our petitions and use it in their stories as a way to easily get some additional angles for their reporting. So it's a very interesting shift in news reporting, that online component that petitions really fit into quite well. And finally, petitions are a great way to influence the decision makers that we need to make change. Now, maybe not all of your organizations are really trying to you're not advocacy organizations, so this might not apply directly to you, but if you're looking to change a local policy to enable your organization to realize its mission, an online petition can be a great way to start that conversation with those decision makers that can help you make the change. So every time someone signs a petition on change.org, we send an email on their behalf to the decision maker that you've listed on the petition, And in this slide here, we're seeing in-person petition delivery with hundreds of thousands of signatures printed out and delivered to the Apple Store about creating more ethical iPhones from materials sourced responsibly from regions that aren't suffering because of the mineral extraction required for production of those iPhones. It was a really powerful moment that also actually generated a lot more press for this campaign and the organization behind it. So when you create a petition on change.org, I want to point out two great benefits for your organization. The first is that we do allow organizations on our platform to do some free list building. And that works like this. This is the petition that we looked at a moment ago by the Frank Lloyd Wright Building Conservancy. And you'll see that underneath the sign button, there is a display my signature publicly and also a checkbox that says, keep me updated about this campaign and others from the Frank Lloyd Wright Building Conservancy. If someone checks that box, that means that they want to hear from you about this campaign and other campaigns. And when that box is checked, we allow you to download the contact information, including email, of that supporter and welcome them onto your email list, which is a really great benefit for organizations that are constantly trying to find new supporters that care about your work. These folks have already signed the petition, and they've gone the extra step to say, I want to stay in touch with you to learn about your work. So a really great benefit that you can do all for free on change.org. And also, but that's not going to be everyone that signs your petition, obviously. But what you can do on change.org is email your supporters through the petition with our messaging feature, and you can update folks on the progress of your campaign. You can also ask them to join you for in-person events. If they want to volunteer, you can send them a message through the petition to contact them. You can also ask them to sign up for your email list. So there's a lot of potential to use the online petition through change.org to contact new supporters, cultivate your relationship with them, communicate with them, and move them up the ladder of engagement. So that's all I'll say right now about online petitions. We do have a lot of great resources for organizations about how to use online petitions. If you visit change.org/organizations, you'll see a list of the webinars we have available about best practices for online petitions, where I go into great detail about some of the things that you can be thinking about to make your petitions more effective. And we'd be happy to have you join us for those webinars. Every month we offer them. So with that, I'll turn it back to Karen to tell us about how you can use VolunteerSpot to engage volunteers for your organization.
Awesome. Thanks, Lawrence. And can I just say, giant fan of change.org. We've used it locally to help get some information to our local school board. That's the right word. And of course, I'm a big fan of signing national petitions that I care about. So it's just really exciting. So I just do want to talk about VolunteerSpot. It was thrilling to see so many VolunteerSpot users and such great words in the such great comments when we started out today. And many of you said that your biggest hassle is organizing, coordinating volunteers, finding volunteers, and recruiting them. So that's where VolunteerSpot can come in and help. I'm going to show you an example. It's a 3-step process. I'm going to use a school example just because we know that back to school, for all of you guys that are in booster PTO and PTAs, that's on your mind. So the way it works is you go onto VolunteerSpot and you use a very simple planning wizard to choose what you need people to do and to bring. So we break it down into 2 things. So any activity can have a number of things to do or bring. So if I'm doing a very large, say a very large park cleanup or a very large back-to-school event or a large carnival, I need people to do everything from staff booths, sell tickets, set up and clean up, and I need them to bring things like food and refreshments. And so you'll specify on the website what you need. When you need it, you can quickly copy to multiple days. We can handle hundreds and hundreds of volunteers. And then you can send out an invitation. Now, you can send it out however your volunteers work. So if your volunteers are on email and you have their email addresses, you can invite them specifically with a personal email invitation. You can also put a link or a button on your website. You can put, what I just loved about change.org, if you know you have supporters and you're doing a big event, you can put a VolunteerSpot sign-up link in that message that you send out to people that said, hey, we know you care about our cause. We're having a big rally day. Why don't you come and join us and volunteer to capture signatures in person? And then you can put in a link for when people want to come. So whatever platform you're using, VolunteerSpot links will work with those platforms. We're completely platform neutral. So however you're organizing and keeping your email list and communicating with your folks, those volunteer lists can go right into those communities. Then what happens is your users will click a link. If they're on a smartphone, they're going to get automatically routed to screens that fit their smartphones. So it's a much simplified experience. So by the time they get their message in about 30 to 60 seconds, they will be signed up for your activity. If they're online, they'll come onto screens that have a little more information and a little more choice to skip back and forth. We have both a calendar view and a list view, and you can see, participants can see who else has signed up, and they can leave interactive comments for each other in the activity. And then for those of you that might be in person at a meeting, you can download our iPad app called Clipboard by VolunteerSpot that turns that iPad into a Clipboard sign-up sheet. So if you're at a gathering or a meeting or a back-to-school day or a rally, you can have people sign up for specific volunteer activities right there on the spot, and when they get home, they're going to get a confirmation message sitting right in their inbox. I will say you need a wired connection to be able to use Clipboard for VolunteerSpot. Next, what happens is your supporters will receive confirmation and reminder emails. So 2 days before their event, they'll get a reminder. They can automatically sync to their electronic calendars. So if they're on their phone, they can right there add it to their phone calendar as well. And they can go back in and change their commitments or move days as they need to. So volunteers create that schedule themselves. If you want to create the schedule for them, you can use VolunteerSpot strictly as a reminder service where you manually put in everybody's assignments and then the reminders come out. And the confirmations come out of the system. But I would recommend that you let your volunteers choose their spots. It'll save you tons and tons of time. And this is just an organizer view where at a glance you can see what days are full. These are green days are full, yellow days still have more openings, more people available, more spots available for people to help, and you can quickly see a summary of how many of your spots are full. So you know which days you need to send a message and recruit more people for. You can also export your data with VolunteerSpot, print reports, send thank you notes. We make it very easy to do all the different volunteer management functions you might need to do at a very simple interface. And let me just say that we've got 3 million users and growing. Our leaders and volunteers love us. We save them time. We boost volunteer turnout. Over and over again, we hear that we've ended the flake rate. And those of you that work for nonprofits know a lot about the flake rate. Just simply by reminding people and giving them the option to adjust their schedule if needed, if life happens, makes more people show up and more people keep their commitments. And this is really important. 99% of our organizers say they would refer VolunteerSpot to a friend or colleague, and 95% of our volunteers. So we're really, really thrilled about how we made the interface easy. And just remember, volunteers are the first step to becoming donors. So for those of you that have causes or nonprofits where donations are very, very important for your operations and even schools, it's getting people to commit their time is a really critical first step to getting them to commit their treasure in your favor. And so let me just say that VolunteerSpot is for everything you organize. It's not only for large nonprofits and big groups, it's for the potluck that you're doing with your neighborhood or the big back-to-school party that you're having at the local pool. So please give us a try. You can take a demo straight from the website and see how it looks from a volunteer's perspective. And we've got lots of videos and resources and blogs and Facebook articles for volunteer leaders and parent group leaders to help you be more successful in your role. And let me just I guess that's what I've got right there. I know I've answered some of the questions about VolunteerSpot that have come up. And then the other issue is I'll answer more of the questions when we're done a little bit later today. Okay, Lawrence is now going to talk to you about managing documents and supporter information.
Great. Thanks, Karen. Yeah, so we have sort of walked through some ways to find new supporters, to engage the supporters, to get them to take action. And throughout that process, you are creating a lot of content to be sharing with your supporters on social media. You're doing a lot of planning for your volunteer events. You have the actual supporter information, you know, their their contact information, their names, what they care about, their interests. So it's important that we keep all that accessible, and increasingly important that it's not only accessible but shareable in a collaborative way for other folks in your organization to have access. So we're going to talk about a few tools that we found to be very helpful to do that. First and foremost is Google Drive, which is part of Google's free Office tools suite that is available for free. All you really need is a Gmail account. You can also create organization accounts, I believe, for free, a limited number of free emails for their Google Apps feature. But basically, all you need is a Gmail account, and you have access to Google Drive, which is an index of all the documents that you've created and allows you to share them with other folks that have Gmail accounts. And I can say from personal experience, we use Google Drive and Google Documents every day at change.org. It's really our main document collaboration tool, and it's very easy to use, very effective, and almost too effective. I have so many documents that it's hard to keep track of them sometimes. But I think it's a testament to how great Google has been in creating a solution that makes it very easy to collaborate on all kinds of documents. So to get to your Google Drive, you'll see that in the slide here, there is a Drive, or you should see a Drive link in the header of your Google window when you're logged into Gmail. If you want to click on that, and then you will be taken to your Drive index page, and you'll see that there is a Create a Document link on the left-hand side. I should say, actually, first before we go into some of the specifics, is that you're allowed up to 15 gigabytes of storage for your Google Drive account, and you can store all kinds of things. It's not just about creating Google documents like documents or spreadsheets or presentations, but you can upload PDFs, you can upload photos and videos, and there's a lot of different ways that you can access this information. You can access it on PCs, on Apples. There are mobile apps for your iPhone, for your Android, for your iPad that give you access to all this information. So it's really, at this point, very cross-platform. So it's very easy to access your information from wherever you are, whatever device you're using. So to quickly walk through some of the features of using Google Drive and Google Docs, you can see on the left-hand side here, if you click that Create button, you'll see all the different documents that you can create natively within Google Drive, and that includes word processing documents, presentations, which is a really great way to provide a training for your group. A presentation can be a lot more engaging way of sharing information all through the Google Drive interface. Spreadsheets as a replacement to programs like Excel, and also Google Forms, which is a really great way of creating public forms that your supporters or volunteers can enter information, share information with you if you want to create a post-event survey and ask them what they thought of the event, ideas for improvement, et cetera, et cetera. You can create a free form, share it publicly. Anyone email the folks that attended your event. They can fill it out, and the information gets deposited directly into a Google spreadsheet. So really, really wonderful tool for communicating and collecting information from your supporters to do evaluation and to improve your programs. And it's also very easy to share Google Docs with your team. By default, all documents you create on Google Drive are private. But if you see the screen here, we're looking at a Google Doc, just a campaign outline that obviously has not been filled out. But there is a share button in the upper right-hand side when you're looking at a document. And if you click on that share button, you'll be taken to a screen that allows you to specifically invite different individuals through their email address to do one of a few things. They can either read only or just view the document. They can edit it, or they can view and add comments so that you can have a collaborative discussion about the document, or they can actually edit the document and sort of co-own and edit the document together. And again, I use this every day with my colleagues at Change.org. It's a really great way. I feel like I'm freed of the Microsoft Word sort of anchor that always weighed me down when I was on my computer, on my desktop. And I have access to these documents whether I'm at home or at work, no matter what computer I'm on. And so this is a great way for internal sharing of documents and maybe sharing some documents externally with folks outside your organization. But I did want to mention another great solution for document storage and sharing called Dropbox. And we also use Dropbox at Change.org, and I tend to think about Dropbox as a way to share either larger documents like larger photos or maybe design files or large presentations, because Dropbox gives you 2 gigabytes free storage. But what's great is that it's a great solution for easily sharing these documents publicly with maybe your designer or your web person, or maybe you're working with a partner and you need to share collateral or photos. I tend to use Dropbox more in those kind of situations. Again, it's a free service, and you can upload photos, documents, videos. You can't create documents in Dropbox. It's really storage and sharing only. So you might choose to add certain more public-facing documents in Dropbox, and then use the links here that we see either to share a folder, or you could copy the share link for a specific document or file and send that to a coworker or someone that you're collaborating with. Like Google Docs and Google Drive, everything's automatically private, and so you control who sees what. And Dropbox also has a lot of different apps for different devices, whether it's desktop or mobile or iOS or Android. So really accessible, and there's been some news lately about Dropbox even. In fact, just today, some big announcements about Dropbox extending its integration across other platforms. So I think Dropbox is a great tool for you to use to make sure your data is available elsewhere. Very easy sharing through Dropbox, similar interface to Google Drive that allows you to choose specifically who you're sharing with. And then I want to talk quickly about one more personal tool that I use. I use it for work and for my personal to-do lists. It's called Evernote. It's if you think of like the text edit or text programs, either in Windows or Apple, Evernote is like that, but you can share them. You can upload your notes and your lists to the web and to the cloud and access them on your phone. So I have a to-do list that I'm always updating for work and for personal things, and I use Evernote to easily access that information wherever I am. I think of it as almost a task management system for myself, but it's maybe a personal productivity tool that you can think about when you're trying to make sure that you're up to date with yourself and you have access to your own important to-do lists. All right, I'm going to pass it back to Karen now to talk about some great tools for running meetings and events.
All right, thank you so much, Lawrence. And hey, let me just say, I've been tracking some of the comments that are coming in. Really important, some people noted you don't need a Google account to use Google Drive. You can set one up with your Yahoo account, and you don't need a Google account to share docs. I'm going to put in the chat some information about VolunteerSpot's premium service and also a link to our upcoming webinars if you want to learn a lot more details about how VolunteerSpot works, both as an organizer and as a volunteer. So just check your chat window for that, and we'll answer some more questions. Hopefully we'll have time. But I do want to get through some really, really important meetings, some really, really important resources about running meetings and events. At VolunteerSpot, we have team members in 5 different states and 4 different time zones. So it's really important that we've nailed communication tools that are low cost and really effective for hosting our meetings. Freeconferencecall.com is exactly what it says. So if you're meeting with your various supporters or your team leaders and your executive staff, it's just a really easy way to get everybody on the same page. I just learned about a new one called speak.com that looks really, really awesome, and I'm going to put it into the chat window to go check that one out as well. And so that's just how to make your conference calls super effective. Skype is just fantastic for doing group meetings. The free service lets you video and screen share with one person. If you want to do multiples, you can upgrade for a very low cost. At our company, we keep a chat going for different groups at different times. You might have your executive board on one group, and you might have your fundraising committee on another chat. And it can stay open, and that way you can continue the conversation and continue updating people. It's a great place to put links to Dropbox. You know, here's the new folder. Here's the new flyer. Go on here and take a look. Or here's a link to the Google form. I need you to go in and edit it. So it's a really great way to keep conversations going and add links. JoinMe is online meetings with screen sharing. It's a very simplified version of what we're doing here, where you can go on and you can share a PowerPoint presentation or share your screen or do a demo with other people that can join you, and it's free. Livestream lets you stream events and meetings. As a nonprofit or a school, you can go in and get a free Livestream account. It's used by presidents and PTA presidents, we like to say. So it's a great way to extend your community. So if you're having a big meeting, you can live stream it. You can put the link to the live stream on your Facebook and your Twitter. So your followers and your supporters can come in and see, even if they can't come in person, they can join, they can chat, they can ask questions and contribute to the meeting. Eventbrite is fantastic for organizing events where you need people to sign up, possibly even pay. It's a ticketing system. It takes a little bit to learn to get it set up, but it's just fantastic for single-day events when you're selling tickets like for the big fundraising gala and you need people to come in at different levels. Or if you're holding an education conference, it's really a great way to get your participants onboarded for the conference. We were going to talk about fundraisers. Online fundraising, there are so many and many new ones coming all the time. So rather than endorse any, what I just want to let you know is as you're evaluating fundraising tools, make sure they have social share as a component and an easy way for you to upload your videos, upload your content, and have your supporters engage their supporters. It's really important you have that second-degree social sharing with any fundraising tool you might use, and that you calculate the payout and you're very aware of what people are charging you and how much you're going to get from your online fundraising tools. So those are the fundraisers. I am going to, if you guys have any questions, we do have a couple more minutes, so go ahead and put them into the chat box. I am going to go back to our questions and just see what we've answered. John asked if there were any opinions about Constant Contact, and my opinion is it's a very simple to use tool, very effective, one of the industry leaders. Do you need a waiver to post a photo of a volunteer? It depends on your community and where you are. You absolutely need a waiver to post a photo of a child. But if your volunteers are doing something in public, it's public. What you might want to do is ask your volunteers to post the pictures themselves. Hey, while you're here, take a picture of you and your friends helping out at the food bank. Here's our Facebook page. Make sure it's very clear when people are volunteering how they can communicate socially with their followers about what they're doing as part of your good work. And make it really easy. They know what are the channels, what's your Instagram channel, what's your Instagram hashtag, what's your Twitter, what's your Facebook, where they can post pictures. And somebody else asked, how should a volunteer coordinator work with the public relations coordinator who runs the social media campaign? That's a really great opportunity to think about recruiting volunteers and thanking volunteers, and actually during your events, think about how you're going to recognize volunteers during the events. Napa Vintners Association did a great job of posting volunteers needed on their Facebook page. Then they showed volunteers coming in to get their T-shirts and doing all the setup on the day of event, and then that created huge buzz and was a great way to recognize volunteers. And then at the end of the day, they showed, look at all this great work our volunteers have done. So those are some different ways to handle it. And through VolunteerSpot, of course, those buttons can go through your social media as well. There's a couple of questions here for change.org. Do you want to capture those, Lauren?
Sure. Let's see. Question about rules for authentication of petitions created and signed through change.org. I guess it depends on who the end user for your petition is. If you're petitioning a government body, there are differences in whether or not online signatures can be accepted. Generally, to submit signatures for an online petition, we recommend that petition creators print out their list and deliver it in person, and those signatures are generally selected. We've had some interesting tactics whereby public comment emails, for example, the Environmental Protection Agency has a public comment email for certain projects, and people have listed that email as a decision maker on their petition, so automatically entering each petition signature as a comment through that email. But authentication of petitions really is based around our users. Users have to have an account on change.org so that we can verify that they are a unique individual, and that we take security and validity of our petitions very seriously. So we have a lot of anti-spam features built into our platform to make sure that people that are signing petitions are real individuals and not robots somewhere on the web. So I hope that helps answer your question. We'd be happy to take the conversation online if you have any other questions about that. And let's see.
I'm going to put in a link to the ladder of engagement. There's a great blog article on Salesforce that'll give you more information about that. And Lawrence, how about the slides? Are they going to be available?
Yeah, I will send around a follow-up email to everyone with a webinar, a video of this webinar. So stay tuned for that, probably the end of this week. And if you have any questions for me about change.org, would love to talk to you. Actually, my email is not up there, but I should mention it. It's lawrence@change.org. We have information about how your organization can use our platform at change.org/organizations. And we are always tweeting about great nonprofit tech news at change.org. That's our Twitter handle. My Twitter handle is LSGrodeska. I know one of the longest and weirdest last names of all time, but you can find me online there. And really a pleasure talking with you all today. Thank you so much, Karen, for being a part of this presentation and sharing your great knowledge about tools that nonprofits can use to be more effective.
Thank you so much, and I think I'm going to battle you for the weirdest and longest last name. So it's been great fun.
All right.